What if Hansi Flick's teams always peak in year 1, then struggle in year 2? It sounds harsh, but look closer. Bayern? Germany? Barcelona? Big jobs, big first season success, then issues start showing up. In this video, we'll test the idea of a second season syndrome for Flick. We'll explain his football, why it burns players out, how opponents adapt, and why injuries and depth problems make the second year much tougher. No drama, no flick out chance, just a footballing theory we feel that we need to talk about. So stay with us. Hansi Flick's football is simple to describe but hard to do. He wants high intensity. He wants a high defensive line. He wants players to press in waves and win the ball back fast. The team must act like one body. Everyone moves at the same tempo, everyone covers the same space. When it works, it looks devastating. Quick turnovers, fast attacks, opponents left wrong-footed. When it breaks, it looks fragile. The gaps appear, the players get tired, and the mistakes cost goals. This is the starting point for the whole theory. The cost of Flick's style breaks down into two things. The first, physical cost. Constant pressing and a high-tempo training schedule demand a lot of legs. Players run more high-intensity sprints, they need near-perfect recovery, and that raises the risk of muscle issues and overload injuries. Number 2, tactica. Put those two costs together and you see why a team might be brilliant in 1 year when freshness and unity are maximal, and then struggle in year 2 when workload, expectation, and small injuries start to stack up. Now, why do we think that there's a pattern developing across Flick's teams? Well, let's walk the timeline fast. At Bayern Munich, Flick steps in, gets huge success quickly with the Champions League and domestic trophies, but his relationship with the club fractured, and the second season was harder because of injuries and tension around squad planning. That end to his Bayern spell was shocking, but was simply due to a clash between him and the board, who tried to impose certain stuff on him. At Germany, however, he faced a different problem. Flick replaced Joachim Löw and had a strong start in terms of results, but the national team then had a poor World Cup and a run of bad results, ending with a huge loss against Japan that led to his dismissal. International management is different with fewer training days, but he still played a style that still demanded intense preparation and clear patterns. And finally at Barcelona, Flick arrives, wins the league and all domestic cups in his first season, as before. These 3 jobs give us a small sample, yes, but the pattern is visible. Big first-year results, second-year difficulties linked to injuries, tactical limits, or squad issues. At Bayern, Flick quickly built a machine. The squad and system matched beautifully in 2019-20. They won everything. But in the following season, the problems came. Injuries accumulated, key players missed time, and at the same time, there were reports of disagreements between Flick and the club hierarchy about transfers and squad planning. That mix of physical strain plus a board-level disagreement on how to build the squad for a high-intensity style was crucial to the break. It wasn't only on the pitch, it was also about the club not fully backing the longer-term demands of Flick's system. They simply saw Flick as a great dream, yet a short-lasting one. The takeaway here is that a high-intensity system needs a club plan that accepts a higher injury risk and buys depth accordingly. If that plan is missing, cracks appear. And if you fast forward to the current state of Barcelona, you probably already figured out where this is going. But before we get there, be sure to hit that subscribe button to Football Historia if you're enjoying the content and you want to catch more videos like this one. One more stop before Barca, and that's the German national team stint. Flick's Germany story is different because international football has fewer training days and more travel. Still, the pattern had echoes. A strong start, then tactical questions and disappointing results at the 2022 World Cup, followed by persistent poor form that led to his sacking in 2023. The national job magnified one of the weaknesses of Flick's approach. It needs time to build shared habits. At a national team, you often don't get that time. When opponents study your pressing triggers and players lack daily training to maintain intensity, systems can fail. That helps explain why Germany struggled under Flick's watch in his later months. Players like Gundogan actually had some public digs at Flick, implying that the players were struggling to adapt to that system. Now, Flick's Barcelona, the first season was a clear success. The team demolished Real Madrid in the Clásicos, won every possible trophy they could win, and were 2 minutes away from playing a Champions League final. Flick was praised widely and even received Coach of the Season nominations. But year 2 has been bumpier. 2 results stand out, and that's a Champions League loss to PSG, in which Barcelona's high line was punished late, and a heavy 4-1 defeat to Sevilla in La Liga. These matches became headlines. Critics said the high line was suicidal in big games, and that pressing had lost its bite. Flick defended his system, saying the structure itself isn't the problem. Still, the evidence shows the pressing sometimes fails at key moments, and when it fails, a high line becomes dangerous. Right now, Barcelona have a swollen injury list. Lamine Yamal had pubic trouble and has missed multiple matches. Raphinha suffered a hamstring problem and was ruled out for a few weeks. Alejandro Balde had recurrent hamstring issues. And the new great keeper, Johan Garcia, required surgery for a meniscus tear. Those absences remove rotation options and force other players to play more minutes. When the squad is thin, the pressure on the remaining starters grows. That magnifies fatigue and the risk of new injuries. Over a season, those micro efforts add up. Even small muscle strains can become chronic if recovery is rushed. 2 dynamics accelerate that. So a high-pressing team can win a lot when fresh, but it also risks a wave of soft injuries when minutes pile up and recovery breaks down. And it's not only injuries. Opponents learn. In year 1, teams are surprised and make mistakes. In year 2, coaches plan better. They refine the press, they play for pockets of space behind the high line, and they prepare targeted counterattacks. The press timing collapses. All it takes is for one player to mess up the timing, and in PSG's first goal, that player was Lamine. He sprinted to press Pacho, which was actually not the mistake. The mistake is that he didn't check if Koundé had Nuno Mendes covered. So what happened was that Koundé arrived late, giving Mendes the space to do a little bit of combination play with Mbaye, who was also free because Eric Garcia arrived late, and you know the rest. See, one very little mistake and the whole system falls like a domino. Also, the late goal exposed the high line and the failure to regain pressing structure in time. We saw it again against Sevilla. The team failed to press in the right moments and the opponents punished them. Those are tactical failures that follow from fatigue, injuries, or simple opponent adaptation. Flick asks players to fully commit to the team plan, but at elite clubs, players are stars. New signings and new status can change dynamics. Players with ego or with less buy-in to daily pressing can become weak links. You see teams where 1 or 2 players decide not to press as hard. The system then shoulders an extra burden. That's part psychology, part leadership. Flick needs clear leaders who police intensity on the pitch. When those leaders leave or are injured, the system becomes more fragile. A sign Barcelona are not settled is the frequent rotation in central defense. Their understanding of offside traps, who steps, who covers, and who runs with attackers is weaker. This leads to confusion, which is exactly what opponents can exploit. Pau Kubasi, a young defender, has also been publicly critical about the team's defensive problems. Flick's departure from Bayern in 2021 had many ingredients: disagreements with the sporting setup and frustration at how the club handled transfers and the squad. Injuries and squad depth were a part of the story too. He openly admitted he wanted to leave and later reflected on what went wrong. The parallel with Barcelona is simple. When a coach asks for a certain type of squad with specific profiles and the board either doesn't or can't fully deliver, tensions grow. That tension hurts performance and can end a tenure. History doesn't repeat exactly, but it rhymes. A high-pressing, high-line system needs rotation. You need more high-quality players who can execute the same plan. If you run a genius midfield trio and a rotating wing, you must still have 3 more bench players who can press with the same intent. Barcelona currently face a tight list of injuries, and the surprise exit of Inigo Martinez, who provided experienced cover to Al Nassr. That departure trimmed defensive experience and made rotation harder. The club's available options matter. If transfers and squad planning do not match Flick's needs, the pressure will increase and the second season will feel harder. Barcelona used many young players last season to cover the financial shortcomings to manage minutes for youth, especially when the team plays intense football all season long. Pedri has been phenomenal, but he looks exhausted already in October. You could say the same about many Barca players in that squad. It's important to be honest here, the sample size is too small. Flick has only had 3 major jobs. That's not enough to declare a universal law. Also, many coaches see cycles. Klopp and others have had dips too. But what we can say is this: Flick's system has predictable vulnerabilities. Those vulnerabilities become visible when injuries stack, when opponents adapt, and when clubs don't supply enough depth. That combination often shows up in year 2 simply because the first year benefits from freshness, surprise, and shared adrenaline. So yes, there is a pattern, but the reasons are structural, not a defensive pairing that can keep consistent minutes, and use the international break to recharge and rebuild pressing drills. If the club also accepts the need for 1 or 2 experienced backups in January, it will reduce the risk of repeating Flick's second season pattern. The board must try to fully back the coach with signings. Don't forget, last season, Barcelona had the same bad run of games in what Flick called shitty November. It all started with the genius of Real Sociedad's former manager, Yamal Alguacil, who basically gave Barcelona's opponents a blueprint on how to beat Flick's high line, mistakes that led to the recent losses like he did last season. The Hansi Flick model works. It wins trophies fast, but it asks a lot of players and a lot from clubs. When that asking is not matched by depth, recovery, and in Germany and now Barcelona. It's not doom, it's a warning. If Barcelona and Flick respond with smart rotation, medical care, and a bit of tactical adaptation, they will recover like they had before. If they don't, the problems could deepen. History shows both outcomes are possible. Here's the calm bet. Barcelona and Flick will likely find a way back. He already did it once at a new club. The team still has quality, and the manager has shown he can adapt. But the verdict is this: yes, you can hope, but you also have to be prepared. Clubs must back. Hansi Flick's football asks everything from his players. It wins fast, it costs fast, that is the risk. Expect a correction, expect repair work, and expect drama, because in elite football, drama is the price of trying to play the game at full speed. We'll keep watching, and we'll keep calling it like it is: fair, honest, and clear. So I'll see you in the next chapter of the Flicky Flacker story. And you know what? It's not only Flick and Barcelona who are struggling after a big season. The lads in Liverpool are still trying to find their rhythm, and Mo Salah is in the heart of all that. Go check out our deep dive into the Egyptian Kings' rocky start to the season.